Welcome back to Weekly Roundup and Merry Christmas to all the viewers out there. My name is Frankie.
And I'm Ryan from the Coffee Break.
And as usual, thank you so much, the Coffee Break, for giving us all the juicy news every single week.
Covering from politics to business, global news, local news. Subscribe to stay informed.
Alright, so today we are going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of going through the usual weekly roundup, we are going to wrap up the year with the most juicy news in politics and business in 2023.
What are some of the important news lah? Business, politics, you name it, we will cover it.
If you recall, right, we had our GE15 in late 2022. And then we all thought, finally things are settled and we are going to have the government for the next 5 years. But 2023 is a very surprising year in politics because we have 6 state elections.
Yep, it had to be had lah because that time they didn't do it concurrently with the GE. So people had to go back to the states and vote again. If you're from Klang Valley, that's easy. If you stay in Selangor, then okay, you vote in Selangor. If you were, let's say, from Penang, Kedah, which had the state election, you had to go back. So some people went back, some people didn't. Turnout was about 61 to 74% between the state elections. But this is way below the Election Commission's expectation of 85%.
Yeah,
people don't want to go back.
Fatigue already.
Yeah,
right?
They want to drive back, don't want to fly back because tickets aren't cheap. For one vote, or maybe we think there's no difference if they vote or not. That could also be some of the reasons, right? Like, you vote for GE, not much difference 1 year later, then you have to vote again. You know what? Let's not do it. But the tally remains the same. It's still 3 versus 3 in the sense that with the new coalition, Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional retains Selangor, Penang and Negeri Sembilan, while Perikatan Nasional won big in Kedah, Kelantan and Terengganu. So in Kedah, right, PN actually won 33 out of 36 seats.
Oh wow.
Wiped
Almost
out.
sapu everything.
Sapu everything. Terengganu, sapu everything. Kelantan also sapu almost everything, I think a couple of seats. And PAS was the best performer among all the PN coalition members, winning 105 out of 127 seats contested. That's an 82% win. And they are making inroads into the West. It is a good balance in the sense that people have, or the government is sensing some threats from the opposition. Right? That's how a democracy works. It's 3 plus 3, but really PN is making inroads.
But having said that, moving towards the middle and towards the end of the year, we have seen some default. Now, I wouldn't say default, but there are some members of parliament, they actually pledged their support to the Prime Minister from the PN side, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so that is very interesting development in the political scene in Malaysia.
Because it was all due to the funding, right? They were part of the opposition and they were like, all this news flying around now that, because they were supposed to agree. Because back in Ismail Sabri's time, Anwar actually signed an MOU with him to then had the allocation for the opposition member of parliament. But this time around, that didn't really happen. I think politicians were still busy trying to overturn the government because there's a lot of news that came out. We have the seats, we have the numbers, we have people supporting, signing SDs and all that.
Especially right after the state election, right?
Correct.
When they sapu everything in the 3 states, they say, you see, people are saying that they are more confident with the PN government.
Correct. But that didn't happen .
Yeah, that
1 year
didn't
later, still didn't happen. So the Madani government celebrated its 1 year. And right after its 1 year, there was a cabinet reshuffle by our
PMX.
Prime Minister,
Yeah.
right, PMX. Some interesting changes. So we had the EPF CEO becoming the second finance minister. We have a former finance minister, Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani, becoming the Minister of Plantation and Commodities.
And Dr. Zhu is back.
Yep, the former health minister is back. He is replacing
Zaliha Mustafa.
which is now in the Prime Minister's department under Federal Territories, right? So that also made a comeback. Federal Territories was not in the previous cabinet, but now it's parked under the PM's department, right?
And Stephen Sim has changed in portfolio. He was in the Ministry of Finance and now he has changed his position to Ministry of Human Resources.
Minister, an upgrade for him.
An upgrade for him.
So he's replacing Siva Kumar. Gobind Singh Dio also made a comeback, right? He's now the Minister of Digital, whereas Fahmi Fazil becomes the Minister of Communications, right?
So it's split lah. Yeah. MCMC is split into 2 departments.
MCMC, I recall it.
No. Sorry. MCMC is an agency under the Ministry of Communication. Yes.
Correct. So I think digital ones handle more of whatever the government plans for next year. So I think my digital ID is probably one of them.
Correct.
More of digital upscalings and all that is probably one of them. All the data centers that are coming could also fall under that purview. As of now, DNB, last I recall that DNB is still under consideration, which should it be parked under. Yeah, so there was also a tripartite shuffle between Tokmat, Khalil Nordin and also Zambri. So they had a portfolio reshuffle among those 3. Tokmat now shifts from the Defence Ministry to become a Foreign Minister, whereas Khalil Nordin takes over the Defence Minister role, leaving the Higher Education Minister role to Dato' Zambri Abdul Kadir.
So at the end of the day, in this unity government, every party has somewhat a position in the cabinet, right? And everybody is happy. I guess it's a happy ending.
In the surface,
On
the
the
surface,
surface,
it seems
on
happy, right? But what goes behind the scenes, we don't really know. But are the rakyat happy or not, in the end of the day?
At the end of the day, I think what the rakyat wants is for the government to deliver their promises.
Yeah, I think some of the promises were like increasing wages, improving welfare, eliminating hardcore poverty. Do you think they will be able to do so with this new cabinet in the next 4 to 5 years? Because I think PMX said no more reshuffle. I think this will be the only one line in the 5 years tender. But let's see how that pans out. Okay, on top of all those reshuffling and the state election, there were also very high-profile legal cases throughout the end of the year. Throughout the year, actually. My apologies. So, former Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin was charged in regard to the abuse of public funds related to the Jana Wibawa program. That was 2019, right?
So this Jana Wibawa, right? It's actually a program specially designed to help Bumiputra contractors. And the key feature of this Jana Wibawa is that you have to be 100% owned by Bumiputra in order to take part in this program. And what the government wants to do is to award more contracts to Bumiputra contractors so that they can upbring these SMEs into a more established companies. So the objective was good, it was noble, but Muhyiddin Yassin was charged for misusing the fund, right?
So we are not sure if this is a political prosecution or not, but again, time will tell.
Yeah.
Right, with all these cases, time will tell. Of course, the next high-profile case that we have to talk about is Muar MP Syed Saddiq. He was convicted and sentenced 7 years to jail and 10 million fine after being convicted for a CBT, misappropriation of assets, and money laundering. This was with regards to the funds that he was accused of misappropriating from the youth wing of his former party, Bersatu. He had denied the wrongdoing and he will appeal. But again, this one is very sad in the way that he was convicted in this case because people had faith in him, and this conviction, it's not a good record to have.
Correct. And he is also the first MP who kena 2 strokes of cane, right?
And this is because of his
age.
Yep. Yeah. His age is below 50, I think under the penal code. I think it covers that. The next one, okay, so we have got some controversial ones, of course. As usual, legal cases are always controversial. So our Deputy Prime Minister, Zahid, DNAA meaning discharge not amounting to acquittal for all of his 47 charges.
Oh, he's a free man now.
For the misappropriation of 31 million belonging to his
Yayasan Akal Budi.
Yeah, so he escaped, or rather, not escaped, but discharged. In legal law, it's all discharge. So that's can be a controversial one. I think a lot of people were not satisfied, but we leave it to the rule of law. Yeah, right. We're not one to comment. The other good one is that actually Malaysia wins against the Sulu case. So if you recall, I think there were
some claims where all these
Sulu Sultanate hires actually claimed that the Malaysian government owe money to them after not paying them an annual payment to the supporters that was supposed to be paid. But after the 2013 incursion in Lahad Datu, the country stopped making the payments, and then it caused some legal cases to be around the world. At first it was in French, then I think it went to Netherlands. So it went around to the European court, but Malaysia won big, right? So the Court of Appeal of Netherlands decided to side with the Malaysian government, dismissing their claims to enforce the $15 billion US dollars arbitration award against Putrajaya. So this award was initially awarded by the French Arbitration Court in 2022, but now has been dismissed. So I think that's all the political news. I think Malaysians in general are also quite fatigued with political news.
Politics, right?
We just want to move on and carry on with daily lives and hopefully make money in 2024 or be better off. So we'll talk about business deals.
Yeah, so what were the big business news in 2023?
I think the big ones were probably the Sime Darby ones were quite big.
There are a couple of deals with Sime Darby, right, this year?
Sime Darby has taken over
UMW.
Right, which is, I recall correctly, also owns parts of Perodua, owns the Toyota distribution. So Sime Darby pretty much cover the entire chain of cars.
Correct. So with this acquisition, Sime Darby now becomes the largest automobile player in Malaysia, controlling, I think, around 60% of domestic market share.
That is crazy, and they are going from BMW, because they have distribution from BMW.
Correct.
Porsche. Right now, Rolls-Royce, and now you're gonna talk about Perodua. So they are really covering the entire spectrum.
On top of that, they're also expanding into BYD and other brands, and all these are doing quite well. So I'm actually quite optimistic with Sime Darby's performance in 2024. If let's say people keep buying cars and there's this shift from the ICE vehicle into EVs, right? And with BYD in Malaysia and Sime Darby is the distributor of this brand, I think yeah, there's a chance for them to do well. Yeah, so great market share comes with great liability as well, right? So yeah, even though now Sime Darby controls 60% of the market share, but it also comes with the debt. They inherited the debt that is with UMW in the past. And based on their annual report, UMW has a debt amount of 2.7 billion ringgit. So in order to cover this hole, Sime Darby will have to do some cleaning of their books. They have to dispose of some of the non-core assets away. So things that they dispose of during this period of time include that healthcare company, Sime Darby Ramsey, right? They sold it off for, I can't remember how much.
$5.7 billion in cash. And this is the joint venture. So they sold their healthcare business to Columbia Asia.
And on top of that, they also disposed a piece of land in Labu, Seremban. So with these proceeds, they can cover that 2.7 billion partially.
Settle the debts like most companies do right? Most companies, if they buy something, then they have to sell something from their, just to balance the books out. But PNB, our Sovereign Wealth Fund, actually lauded the deal because it will consolidate all the major auto players in the country. This aligns with Putrajaya's new industrial plan 2030. Right? Under the master plan, the government wants to position Malaysia as the automotive hub for the region and aspires to have more battery electric vehicles sold in the country.
So with this acquisition, I think Malaysia is left with 2 or 3 major automobile players only. There's Berjaya Auto, DRB Highcom, and Sime Darby. Just 3 players only.
So 3 players
3 players control the whole market. Is that good or bad? Tell us in the comments. So Sime Darby is not the only company that did some M&A exercise during the year, right? Vincent Tan's 7-Eleven, right? He owns a stake in 7-Eleven. That company has agreed to sell its 75% stake in Caring Pharmacy to Big Pharmacy. And Big Pharmacy is owned by Cradle, which is the same shareholders as Mr. DIY and CTOS as well.
Big Pharmacy gets bigger.
Yeah. The price tag of the deal was 637.5 million ringgit, valuing the company at 850 million, right?
Actually, pharmacy companies did really well during the pandemic. Like you've seen a lot of small pharmacies pop up. Not even these big brands. So we've seen these big pharmacies, Caring, Watson and Guardian also popped up. But you've seen all these small pharmacies also popped up in the neighborhoods because probably of masks. I know a friend of someone that actually made a lot of money just distributing masks. And they were operating in a shop lot. No one knew, at 7-figure a month.
Yeah. With COVID cases surged recently, right? I'm starting to stock up masks again.
Masks, test kits. These were the biggest movers. And if you buy from a pharmacy, you probably go back there again and again once you've seen the pharmacies. So pharmacy is, again, healthcare. Healthcare is a lucrative business moving forward because once people are more concerned with their health, where would they go? Hospitals or pharmacies to get their meds?
Okay, so those were the deals that happened in 2023. There are also a couple of deals that did not happen in 2023. Now, you recall not long ago, Mars has this issue where if you bought a plane, there's no food for you.
Yeah.
Right? That's because there's some dispute between their catering and the airlines. Right? The catering company is called Brahim's, so they sort of terminate the contract with Brahim and they didn't plan nicely to have an alternative to that. Therefore, there's this gap where you bought the plane and
quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
Business class passengers were served with packed food and all that.
Exactly, and they allow people to bring their own food on board.
That was quite a funny period of time. But I think those predicaments were over But the deal didn't happen.
Yeah, so MAG wanted to acquire Brahim's after that, but it didn't go through.
It fell apart because I think it was mainly for the price tag because the Malaysian Aviation Group wanted to take over at a price tag of 129 million. Whereas an independent consultant has valued the whole Brahim Food Services between 162 to 184 million. So that's quite a big discount, right?
So Brahim didn't want to sell.
Of course, why would you want to sell a discount? So in the end of the day, they were served on the plate that hey, you don't want to buy me. Too bad you serve your own food. Okay, so another deal that didn't go through was the Kuala Lumpur Kepong Berhad deal to buy Bosted Plantations, right? Initially, they were supposed to fork out 1.15 billion to buy 33% and 1 share in Bosted Plantations via a tripartite strategic agreement with Bosted Holdings, which owns a 57% stake in B-Plant, and also LTAT, which owns a 10.6% stake in B-Plant. But this deal fell through. I think we're not sure why. No particular reasons were given why, but didn't come into agreement. In the end of the day, they had to step in and offer 2 billion to take the company private. So these are some of the deals that didn't go through for the year. Next year, we will see some more if there are any more exciting news, exciting consolidation happening in the market. But don't know, let's see.
And 2023 is one of the years where we see a lot of IPOs that came to market.
More uptick
correct.
Right.
And the coffee break actually compiled a list of all these IPOs, and there are some interesting findings over there.
Yeah, like what the team did was actually we look at the listings in the past year, what the proceeds were being used for. So about 3.6 billion were raised, or to be raised. Some IPOs may or may not have happened at the time of this publishing. So about 3.6 billion were raised in about 30 IPOs. And we were curious to see like, hey, what were the monies used for? Was it actually used for
Company expansion, or is it the owners are trying to sell out the companies and exit, you know?
Typically that is the case, right? Typically it's meant to it's meant to expand the business. It's meant to settle the debts. So you deleverage from your business, right? So we had a list of about 30 companies here, and a huge chunk of them actually cashed out.
Yeah, about 38% of that 3.6 billion ringgit are actually offered for sales, which means the existing shareholders selling their stake to the market. Exit lah, in a way.
Exit, is this a good or a bad thing?
Well, I think to a certain extent, it's fair because after you work so hard for the company and you want to reward yourself, so you sell part of the shares away to the market to lock in the profit for yourself, right?
To retire lah.
To retire, so
or
to
to
speak.
share the good things with the public lah.
Correct. So the new issues actually makes out the rest apart from the 38.04%, which is close to 62%, right? So out of this 62%, more than half of it, about 56%, is actually used for expansion. So I think it's still quite healthy over there because most of the money is used for the right things for the companies.
To grow revenue streams,
right?
And to build more plants lah, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and then about 18% of it is used to pare down debts, which is good. Then you save on interest expenses, and now we all know that interest rate is very high, so a lower debts means more profit for the company.
More PBT lah.
More PBT.
More PBT,
more profit before tax. And on top of that, about 17.7% is used for working capital. Means your day-to-day daily expenses to pay your electricity bill, pay your salaries and all that. Which is fair. Sometimes when you want to expand, you need to hire more people, but you may not necessarily have the revenue to back those expansion yet. So you need to raise funds from the market for this purpose.
Buy inventory, pay some bills, and then pay your suppliers and all that just to get it out of the way. Then you buy some more inventory. Yeah, I think that's a fair usage of the money for working cap.
And the remaining of the money, about 5% or so, is used to pay the bankers to do all these IPO exercises. So banks actually made a lot of money in 2023.
Oh, not cheap,
Not cheap. 5% of the 3.5 billion ringgit.
So every 100 million it's 5 million. Wow, bankers get paid well this year.
Wow, they get big bonus in 2023. Yeah, so I think that's all for our yearly wrap-up. I hope you guys enjoyed the show so far. If you like the show, continue to subscribe.
Share with your friends and family.
Yep, and we will see you guys again in 2024.
Have a happy new year. We'll see you next year.